Good morning, friends. Welcome to Grace St. Luke's Church. For those of you who are gathered with us here in Tresvant Hall and those of you joining us online, we are in for a treat today. We celebrate the wideness of music at GSL. One of the incredible parts of this community for decades has been incredible music, and we are blessed in what we offer for worship. Various associations such as Luna Nova. This is now also home base for the Memphis Boy, Girl, and Chamber Choirs. So much takes place here, and we have wonderful staff singers and guest instrumentalists. And so I am just privileged to work in such a place that has a fine program for music. Dr. Patrick Scott is our Director of Music and organist, and he and Debbie Smith and the team do so much to bless us in worship and other ways. But before we begin, I'd like to offer a prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks and praise for this, the third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday, Rejoice Sunday, when we are reminded of all that makes our hearts sing, all that is music. How appropriate it is this day that we celebrate the wideness of music at Grace St. Luke's Church. Be with us as we go throughout this day in music and prayer and fellowship and word and sacrament. And be with those who continue to bless us with their gifts. Amen. Welcome, Dr. Patrick Scott. Please join me.
Good morning, everyone. Believe it or not, this is my first Christian formation at Grace St. Luke's Church because we're normally in choir rehearsal right now. So it's a pleasure to be with everybody and to be in this room at this hour. And I get the privilege to talk about what I love doing most, which is music, and in particular music at GSL. As I always said, GSL has such a rich history of music already. I've been here 2.5 years already. It just seems like a pandemic ago. And right. And I came after a wonderful director of music, Wesley Emerson, who was here for almost 33 years, I think. Before him was Sam Bat Owens, whose name I knew, but not associated with Grace St. Luke's. It was associated with Birmingham Southern College, which is where I did my undergraduate. And so when I came here and was getting things set up in my office, of course, there's always a few lingering things from previous directors who didn't want to take X number of books with them. And I see all these things of Sam Bat Owens. And so I finally figured out that Sam Bat was here for many years, in the 70s, 80s, I can't remember the exact dates. But I knew of his name at Birmingham Southern. So it's just wonderful to continue the legacy of great music here at Grace St. Luke's. And one of the things that I knew what was so important here already was choral music, and so getting to dive deeper into the rich choral tradition here at Grace St. Luke's has been wonderful, and it has been extremely wonderful to be able to have our choirs back this fall and in the summer. We had to do without for a better part of a year. Grace St. Luke's is so wonderful to be able to have staff singers. We've got one today, Elizabeth, who were able to come in the absence of our full choir for an entire year and keep things going. During that time, as you're very aware, we had to overnight flip from in-person services to live stream services. Half of us didn't even know what live stream was, and myself included. Lucy beautifully threw up an iPhone, and we figured out how to put it on Facebook, and that was the beginning of us being able to have a new system in the nave that does wonderful, beautiful services. We've got this camera here so my mother can watch from home. Hi, Mom. And all of our moms, Elizabeth's mom watches too. And so it's really been a big shift over the last almost 2 years of how things go here. And everything has a silver lining, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And the silver lining of a lot of this is the fact that we've been able to branch out in some ways that we might not have thought to otherwise. I did a little count last night of the things that I had recorded from March 8th until recently, and with my iPhone and a computer and a Zoom recorder and all these things, recorded over 160 pieces of music over the last 2 years. And all of those are pinpointed into different services that we created. We had compline services and evensong services to really take care of our afternoon congregation, in addition to the live streaming we do on Sunday mornings. And all these services have music and different types of music. And our 8:30 service always has 2 hymns in it, and it works really well for that group of the congregation that attends that service. The 10:30 has the full choir, and so we have more service music, our Glorias and Kyries, and Sanctus, Sancti, I guess, and Agnus Deis, and all the things that we sing as part of communion. And once again, things that we were not able to sing for a full year, and you don't realize how the Gloria happens or the Kyrie happens, and we just don't really think about it. It's the second piece of the service, and then we sit down for the gospel, the readings in the gospel, and then you don't realize until you're not able to do it how much you missed it. And the first service we were able to have full music back, that was the moment I was most struck with, was getting to play the Gloria again. And who would have thought that was what was going to take me down the first setting we did music again, but that's what it was. So the wideness of music at GSL is, of course, broader than just our 10:30 service, which is what everyone thinks about when, regardless of the church, what's the main service with the main music. But we have music at all of our services, and our afternoon service is really beautiful because we're able to have some guest musicians who are here on a weekly basis, and they rotate between one another, and it allows a beautiful atmosphere of a much more calm environment than, say, the pipe organ. And so it creates a beautiful kind of ambiance, but also just the feeling is different in the room. And we're lucky to have really world-class musicians who come and play just a couple of pieces at the 5 o'clock hour for this communion service. So I've brought a few of them in today, just so you can hear some things. And I chose pieces to do today that we had once recorded. So if you've listened to any of our 167 pieces, you might have heard it before, but these are not any things we've ever played for a live audience or a congregation. So I thought it'd be really wonderful to be able to pull some of that out and do some things. We're going to start with Kelly Herman, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself just very quickly. She is not from Memphis, so this cold weather is like summer for her.
Yeah. Where's a good place to stand?
Right.
Here? Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. My name is Kelly Herman. I play flute. I am a freelancer in town, so I do a lot of private teaching and teaching in schools, and I also play frequently with the Memphis Symphony as their third flute and piccolo player, and here at GSL for 5 o'clock services. I also play with Luna Nova Ensemble. We do a lot of concerts here and around town as well. And I came to Memphis. I'm from Vermont originally, and it was a long journey to get down here, but I ended up in Memphis because I had an assistantship at the University of Memphis for my master's. So I was doing some teaching there, and then also getting my master's degree in flute. And that's about it. Okay.
Kelly. We're just going to do 2 quick little Advent pieces. One is People Look East, and the second is Prepare the Way of Zion. mentioned that she plays a lot around town, but including Luna Nova, which is one of the organizations that does a whole lot at Grace St. Luke's, and Dr. Patricia Gray, who is here, is in charge of that group, who was also in my hiring committee. And so the question, of course, came up in that whole process about the Luna Nova, and my biggest fear was that there was this huge organization that I was going to have to be in charge of. And I learned very quickly that Patricia is in charge of the whole thing, and it could not be more perfect. We had a winter concert just this past week on Monday evening. Kelly played, I played, and a good host of other chamber musicians. And we did a wonderful program about music. Of course, we dive deep into our thoughts during the throes of the pandemic. And so one of Patricia's thoughts after watching something on what program?
One of the great courses on the Bubonic Plague.
Yes, just casual reading. And, but she had a thought of, this unfortunately is not our first pandemic in the world. And we've plenty of other plagues and pandemics that have happened over the last thousands of years, and musicians have been around forever. And so how did composers deal coming out of pandemic? So she had this wonderful idea of finding some music around the Renaissance and Middle Ages that was written after. It's a happy concert, so we played kind of more upbeat music of just things that composers would have written. And then Luna Nova deals a lot with 20th century music, and so we tried to get composers who had set these earlier Middle Ages and Renaissance pieces, and it was a really great concert. And so we're lucky to have Patricia as a member of Grace St. Luke's, but also Luna Nova. And the Belvedere Festival happens every summer, which is a week-long festival that just takes over the entire church. And I'm sorry for the rest of the staff, but I love it. There are people rehearsing all over the place, and it reminds me of being in music school when you open up a closet somewhere and someone's practicing in there because they've got to learn these last couple of measures before the performance. And it's just it's a wonderful upbeat feeling. Normally things calm down in June, but not during the week of the Belvedere Festival. So that always happens in June. I think it's the second week of June this year. And we've already got that in the works. And so Luna Nova is a wonderful other program we have here. Our choirs, I've already mentioned a couple times, is part of the hallmark of any music program in a church, but especially here at Grace St. Luke's. And when Ollie gave me a call to see if Grace St. Luke's was a job I might be interested in, and I told him no, and then he called again, and in Ollie's way, makes everything just seem like it's the best thing in the world. And normally he's right. And so in that conversation, he, as a former member himself of the Memphis Chamber Choir, said that there was a possibility in coming years that the boy choir, girl choir, and chamber choirs of Memphis might be looking for a new home, and that Grace St. Luke's was on the short list because of our school and proximity to 500 students that walk through our doors every single week. And the pandemic, of course, put that on hold for a year, but we were able to start that conversation about a year ago. And as you know, we are now the new home to the Memphis Boy, Girl, and Chamber Choirs, and we have slowly started building that program. We have about 7 children in it right now, and they are singing with all the rest of our choirs at Lessons and Carols this afternoon at 5 p.m. in the nave. I hope you'll be there. And we basically had to start that program from scratch again, but with the rich history of what it's already been, and the financial aspect was already there. So we're lucky to be able to have that here, and I'm lucky to be able to be a part of it and to help instill great sacred music into the lives of young people. Speaking of singing, we have one of our staff sopranos, Elisa Horn, and she is going to sing not an Advent piece, but an Easter piece, so just pretend like it's Easter. But it's from Handel's Messiah, and you probably know, I know that my Redeemer liveth. Oh, and Elizabeth is also not from Memphis, but she's been here for a little bit.
I'm not used to having my mask off. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. Like he said, I'm not from here. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, where I had the privilege to go to a couple of performing arts middle and high schools. And I have been singing for a very long time. I got my degree here at the University of Memphis in vocal performance and music industry, and just have been really enjoying my time with Patrick. And it was kind of funny how we came together. One of the choir members was like, hey, there's an opening for a soprano section leader. I said, well, I'm not doing anything with my time, I might as well. So the same day that I auditioned for the role, Patrick was sent a recording of me singing, and Patrick actually hired me a week before he started. So thank you for that.
We met on both of our first days.
Yes, our first days were the same day. So I'm really thankful to be here and singing, and I hope you all enjoy.
Elizabeth is also a lifelong Episcopalian.
I am, yes, born and raised.
aspect of the afternoon services that we've been able to incorporate recently, in addition to kind of more Baroque type instruments, is some jazz. And if you know Ollie, you know that he loves jazz, and so it was very easy for us to kind of figure out how to incorporate that. And Steve Lee, who is with the Memphis Jazz Workshop, I always say it incorrectly, does a wonderful job and has a wonderful program that incorporates young people learning how to play jazz. And so he comes sometimes, some students come sometimes, and so it's a great partnership that's begun kind of on a more regular basis recently. And he offered what do we call, Live at GSL a couple of months ago, and it was a wonderful program we had out on the green space at the school. And then even Thursday of this week, we had Tony Thomas do some jazz Christmas carols at the piano. And Tony takes care of our instruments here at Grace St. Luke's, in addition to being just an incredible jazz pianist, and has been in Memphis his whole life. So more people that we're able to just partnership who are not necessarily otherwise associated with GSL, and music is a part that just kind of pulls all that together. One more, Elisa Horn is a fabulous cellist in town, born and raised in Memphis, but took some time in New York. I'll let her tell you a little bit about that, and she's going to come and play. We're back to Advent and Christmas now, so a setting of the Father's Love Begotten, which we recorded last year and didn't. You might have heard online, but no one's heard in person. So,
hi, I have a loud voice. You can probably hear me. I don't know. I'm Elisa Horn, and I am originally from Memphis. And thanks to some friends I've known my whole life, right when I lived in New York for 12 years after being in school away as well. So I hadn't lived in Memphis for about 18 years. And thanks to friends like Patricia Gray and Ann Ray, who unfortunately passed away right after I got back, introduced me. And actually, I guess I had known Wesley Emerson from before and didn't even know. So they asked me to play, and it was right before actually Patrick was hired and came here. But I have to tell you that this is the only place that I have been able to play the entire pandemic. I'm at high risk, and because of Ollie and Patrick and having these afternoon services where no one's around and I can have either my mask or not, and it's just been a safe environment here the entire time. So I want to thank everybody for that, because this is the only place I've played in front of people. So thank you. It's very nice to do. So I guess that's it. Also, I'm a member of Temple Israel my whole life, and Ollie has also made me feel very comfortable because he's so close to Rabbi Greenstein, so I feel like we all together. Hold on, sorry, Patrick.
broke the piano.
I was like, what happened over there?
So we'll see Tony Thomas again this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave.
If you just want to stay there, so
Yeah, do you want me to stay
yeah. So unfortunately, the rest of my responsibilities makes me have to go lead choir rehearsal, so we can have 10:30 service. So that's going to do it for me. But Elisa's going to play one more piece by herself, and Kelly's going to
Nice.
play one more piece by herself for you while I go do that. So thank you so much for coming and online too, and just for supporting music in such a beautiful way. Grace St. Luke's is so lucky, and I and the rest of our musicians are so lucky to have a congregation, to have a vestry, to have staff and clergy who just love and support music as well as we do here. And we just really count ourselves lucky to be in a place like this. And so thank you, and I hope that you'll join us for lessons and carols this afternoon at 5 p.m., either in the nave or online. It'll be at both places. So Elisa's going to play, and Kelly's going to play, and we're going to go rehearse. Thanks, everybody.
So I was trying to pick out what to play, and after thinking about it, I was going to play something Advent related, but now I decided I'm just going to play some Bach because that's what I feel like playing. So that's what I'm going to play, and I think it's perfect at all times, all the time. Got so cold, my cello. Suddenly cold. So this is just the Sarabande from the first suite.
Yeah. So, Telemann was a contemporary of Bach. He was actually much more famous when they were both alive, but obviously less famous now. But he wrote these really wonderful solo flute pieces, the flute fantasies. And a fantasy is basically just a kind of semi-improvisatory work, usually for a solo instrument. And so this is the Telemann Fantasy for solo flute, number 8. I'm going to play 2 movements, a slow movement and a fast movement.
Thank you again for joining us in person as well as online as we celebrate the robust music that takes place here at Grace St. Luke's. Next week, we will be in person as we walk the labyrinth. We invite all to participate that way. This will be especially mindful with our beloved community and the Social Justice Committee. So we invite you to look forward to that time next week. Thank you again for being here.